Over the years, we tried to develop a homemade product, but presenting it at its very best that we could. For example, if you come here on Saturday or Sunday, you can get some kind of hot pie most of the time. So that when people come in, they do smell the baking, they do know that we make it here.
What do you need to know before you start a business like this?
Well, we had been in the poultry business for a number of years here, and things weren't going very well, quite frankly, and so we had to find some other ways to get some income. And one of the ways was through turning some of the old hens into chicken pies, and that got us also involved in the fruit pie business. Well, of course, it was quite a big plunge to buy the farm, and our money was, whatever money we had was totally involved in the farm, and then when the farm wasn't going too well, to make a sidewise move into the pie business or the bakery business was rather difficult, but we did it.
Well, we didn't actually use very much startup money at the time that we changed, because poultry prices had been depressed for a year and a half, and at the time that we started the pie kitchen that you see today, we were asked by the public health to have a kitchen separate from our home kitchen. And this is really important, because it's a totally different concept than baking in your own home kitchen. But it was the State Board of Health that did ask us to have a separate pie kitchen, but monitored by the local health inspection once a year. I have a bakery permit. My home ec training had not shown me how to use commercial equipment, how to use the big mixer in making pie crust, how to relate your recipe to your big ovens. Also, I got used to using convection ovens instead of a regular home baking temperature. And now if you ask me how to bake a pie in a home oven, I can hardly remember.
Where do you see your business going?
We've been looking into it and listening, visiting other people, Howard Atkins, and then Lyman Orchards down in Connecticut, and keeping it in the back of our mind that this production that we needed for holiday times and our labor supply at that time might make it advisable for us to go into the molded pastry. I was a little reluctant about going too commercial, so we perhaps avoided making the change until it became a necessity. I have still kept the making of the top crust and hand fluting, rather than to have the crimper that would go with the machine and save still more time.
Well, we'd like to improve and sharpen up a little on what we have, but at our age, we can't envision becoming Mrs. Smith's pies or Frank Perdue's chickens or anything like that. Having to cope with the changes in the economic situation, this is a common thing with in any farming enterprise, but I guess it's a common difficulty that all people farming and in many other businesses face, having to cope with change. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think another problem, too, is that we use, probably you would call it a permanent part-time help. We do not have any people working 40 hours a week, except the high school and college people in the summertime. Now you see that they go back to college or to high school, and we're left at the busiest time of the year with a very short labor supply.
Why did you want a home business?
I think that from my point of view, the fact that I could be home with the family, we have 4 sons, and I was always here, involved, yes, but here when they got off the school bus.
How have your children contributed to the business?
They're very, very supportive, very helpful, and both of us are very grateful to have them drop in as often as they do. Well, I particularly remember that our youngest son was out waiting on customers and counting change in 1st and 2nd grade. Now, of course, today this would be impossible because we're using a cash register and a much bigger business, but he was out there. And
what's the biggest disadvantage of running a home-based business?
We're tied down 7 days a week much of the year, and most people would consider this a compelling disadvantage, but we have learned to live with this and expected some of it to begin with. And holidays are a very important part of the business. Tell them about Thanksgiving pies, Fran.
Well, we start making our pies early in November and freezing them, and the ones that we can freeze, but we still have many of the soft pies to make on the day before and the 2 days before Thanksgiving. We go from making just between 100 and 200 pies to several hundred pies those days before Thanksgiving. We try to keep abreast of what other people are doing. We have several people in our area now that are making homemade pies.
We realize that other people are in business in competition with us, have to compete in the areas of quality and having something that's a little unique that the others can't quite match. Again, the personal relationship with customers, many of whom have come here over many years, and tell their friends. Many of them come long distances, making this as their destination. And we have a difficulty with commercial advertising in that we are very close to a state line which roughly divides the Hartford and Springfield areas into 2 marketing districts and would double their advertising requirement to get the coverage within a certain radius. Well, this last year we have begun to use the services of an accountant, particularly on tax advice.
I guess we do more worrying about the rise of prices and at what point will it become a barrier or
a deterrent to sales.
Yes, that's a better word. Then
it has been a difficult problem at times. Of course, the general trend of prices and costs has been up over the years that we have been in the business, and we always worry about whether we're going too far, too fast with the price. We have not yet run into consumer resistance because of it. We think we're being fair.
Well, I think that while you do have to be very aware that what you're doing is going to make return for your efforts, I think doing the things that you do best, that perhaps other people don't do. I'm thinking of the chicken pies. People don't make their own pies now.
If you had it all to do over again, what would you do?
I'd like to think we wouldn't make the same mistakes, but we probably would make different mistakes. And again, it comes back to this matter of coping with the problems that you run into at any given time.